Hello, welcome back to Mr. Kenner's online math class. This is going to be lesson 6.1, fractions, decimals, and percents. Go ahead and turn your math notebook to the next blank page and put this lesson title at the top. This lesson will be focused on moving from decimals to percents and from percents to decimals, as well as from fractions to decimals and percents. Alright, the first thing I would like you to write down in your notes is what we need to do when we're writing percents as decimals. First thing we need to do is we want to remove the percent symbol and then divide by 100, or just move the decimal point 2 places to the left. And you'll notice I have a little acronym here that is DEEP, and this acronym helps us telling us what we need to do when we're going to a decimal, from a decimal to a percent, or from a percent to a decimal. And it's really telling us the direction that we need to move the decimal place. So if we're going from a decimal to percent, we are going to move our decimal place 2 places to the right. And if we're going from a percent to a decimal, we're going to move 2 places to the left. And we'll see multiple different examples of this through this lesson video today. You can see there's 2 examples here. 82%. You can see 82% when we're going from percent to a decimal. Get rid of the percent symbol and then move the decimal place 2 places to the left. So 82% is equal to 0.82 or 82 100ths. And remember that a percent just means per 100. So we have 82 out of 100, so that will give us 82%. The second example, 2.45%. When we remove the percent symbol and then move the decimal place again 2 places to the left. So 2.45% is equal to 0.0245, repeating. If you haven't already, go ahead and pause here. Make sure you get this information written down in your math notebook. Alright, on the next slide, you're going to see a couple examples. I would just like you to watch as I work through these examples, and then the next slide will give you an opportunity to try some on your own. Alright, the first one here says write 52% as a decimal. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write my acronym up here, D. Okay, and then I'm going to ask myself, what direction am I going to? I'm going from a percent to a decimal. Okay, so a percent to a decimal, so we're going to move 2 places to the left. We're going to the left. So I'm going to remove this percent symbol, and then I'm going to slide my decimal 2 places to the left. So 52% equals 0.52 as a decimal. So we got 52 written as a decimal, or 52% written as a decimal. And then you can see on the diagram here that we have 52 squares out of the 100 squares on this 10 by 10 grid covered. Alright, and then the second example here, we got 7% as a decimal. So we're going to cross out this percent symbol, and we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So we will get 7% is equal to 0.07 or 7 100ths. And then you can see on our 100 grid what it looks like with 7 squares colored in, representing 7% or 7 100ths. Alright, your turn. Go ahead and pause here. And then try these examples, and then come back and see how you did. You're writing these percents as a decimal. Alright, let's take a look here. First one says 61%, and if I use my acronym up the top, DEEP, we're going from a percent to a decimal, so we're going to be moving from the right to the left. So if I cross out my percent symbol here, and then I have 61%, and I'm going to move it 2 places to the left, so we will get 0.61 as my decimal. And then the way that looks on a 100 grid is you can count these up: 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then one more for 61 out of 100. Alright, second example, percent to a decimal, so we're moving from the right to the left. We go 1 place, 2 place, and then we add our 0, so we get 0.08 or 8/100 as our decimal, and then on the 100 grid it will look something like that there. Alright, third example, we have 107%. So again, we're moving from the right to the left, and if we get rid of that percent symbol, and then we put our decimal place here and move 2 to the left. 1, 2. So our decimal will become 1.07. So this is representing 100%, and then 7 hundredths left over. And if we look at that on a grid here, you can see that we have one full 10 by 10 grid colored, and then 7 more on the second grid, and that is because 107% means that we have 107 out of 100, so you can see that represented there. Alright, and then for the last one, we got 92.7%. So if we take our pen and we cross out our percent, and then we move our decimal place 2 places to the left, we will get a decimal of 0.927. And then you can see that on our 100 grid, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows, 9 columns, so that's 90. And then 2 more, and then we just rounded up to 93, 92.7%. Alright, so this is going from a percent to a decimal, and now we're going to look at going from a decimal to a percent. So writing decimals as percent, we're going to multiply by 100, or we can just move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and then add the percent symbol. So now you can see on our acronym DEEP, we're moving from a decimal to a percent, so we're going to be going to the right. Okay, and then in our 2 examples here, we got 0.47, and you can see how we move the decimal to the right, and then add our percent symbol, so we get 47%. And then the second example, 0.2 repeating, you can see the decimal being moved 2 places to the right, and then our percent becomes 22.2%. If you haven't already, make sure that you get this written down in your notes. You can pause now. Alright, here come some examples. On this slide, I would like you just to watch as I work through these examples. Again, we're going to be going from decimal to percent, so we're going to be moving from left to right. Okay, so if I start with 0.47 or 47 hundredths, and I take that decimal, move it 2 places to the right, I get 47%. Write 0.009 as a percent. So again, going from left to right, 2 decimal places. 1, 2. So we will get 0.9%. So less than 1% there. Alright, and then we got write 1.8 as a percent. So if I move my decimal 2 places to the right, we go 1, 2, add our 0, we get 180%. That 1 on the left of the decimal indicates 100% already, and then we have that 0.8 on the right side for 180%. the last one here, 5.45 repeating as a percent. So if we were to extend this decimal, it would be 5.4545, and then that would just continue on forever. So now we, as we see it a little bit written out, we can move our decimal 2 places to the right. So we go from here and we get 545.45 repeating percent. Okay, and we need that bar over the 4-5 to indicate that it is a repeating decimal. So going from a decimal to a percent, we just move the decimal 2 places to the right or multiply by 100. All right, now it's your turn. Go ahead and pause here, try these 4 examples, and then come back and see how you did. All right, so going from a decimal to percent, we're moving our decimal place 2 places to the right. So this first example, moving 2 places to the right, and we get 27%. 0.3 repeating, so that would be a decimal of 0.3333333 going on forever. So if we take our decimal place and move it 2 places to the right, we get 33.3%. Or if we write that using the repeating symbol, it would be 33.3 repeating percent. Also, that can also be written as 33 and 1/3 percent, because 1/3 is 0.3 repeating. All right, example C, we got 2.43. So if we move our decimal 2 places to the right, we get 243%. Remember that whole number in the ones place means that it is 200 out of 100, so 2 whole, and then 43 left over. All right, example D, moving 2 places to the right, we get 6%. All right, hopefully you did well on those examples. Let's keep moving here. Number 5, we're going to be writing fractions as decimals and percents. So when we want to write a fraction as a decimal and percent, we divide the numerator by the denominator, and then change the decimal to percent. We move 2 places to the right. Okay, so when we first divide the numerator by the denominator, it's going to put it right into decimal format, and then we can move the decimal 2 places to the right to get it into a percent. Alright, so if you're unsure about 4/5 as a decimal, you can just put that into your calculator as 4 divided by 5, and you will get 0.8. Alright, so dividing our numerator by denominator, we get a decimal of 0.8, and then to turn that into a percent, we're going to move it 2 places to the right, so we go 1, 2, and add our 0, and then this would be equal to 80%. So 4/5 is equal to 80%. You could also do this by multiplication. If we put 4/5 into a fraction and we extend it to get it to a denominator of 100, so we would multiply 5 times 20 and 4 times 20, and then we would get 80 out of 100. So remember, percent is out of 100, so that would equal 80%. Okay, so make sure you have this written down in your notes before you move on. All right, write the fraction as a decimal and a percent. So the first one, we have 5/8. So we're going to bring our calculator in. We're just going to divide 5 divided by 8. and that's going to be equal to 0.625. So here's our decimal of 0.625, and then to turn it into a percent, we're going to move it 2 places to the right. So 1 and 2, and then we get 62.5%. All right, go ahead and pause here. Try these 2 examples on your own, and then come back and see how you did. All right, the second example here, we got 14 divided by 21, and that's going to be equal to 0.6667. So we have our decimal, and now we can move our decimal place 2 places to the right, and that would be equal to 66.6%. All right, last example here. We have 7 divided by 2, 3.5. So we get 3.5 as our decimal. And now we need to move it 2 places to the right. So we will go 1, 2. We can add a 0 there, and we get 350%. All right, this one here, we're trying to find which of the following are equivalent to 0.875. So we're looking for a percentage here on the left and also a fraction there on the right. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write our decimal over here, So now I have my decimal, 0.875, and in order to turn it into a percent, we can move it 2 places to the right. So we go 1, 2, and we get 87.5%. So we would choose this answer here. And now, changing it to a fraction, 87.5. Alright, so when we look at these fractions over here, your first instinct might be to say that this fraction is the correct fraction, 875 over 100. But that would actually be incorrect, because this is saying that there are 8 of the 100s. So if we had, and then that 5 is in the thousands place, so we would actually need 1 more 0 there, and this would be 875%. Okay, so that one would not work. Now these other ones you can just go ahead and try. This first one here, if we bring our calculator in and we do 7 divided by 8, you will see that this decimal is the one that we have in our question. So 7/8 would actually be the correct fraction. And it is a simplified version. So we get 7/8 is equal to 87.5%. Alright, in our last one here, we have 9 and 7/500ths. We're trying to write this mixed number as a percent. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say, well, I know that this 9 is a whole number, and that's in the ones place. So I'm going to go ahead and write my answer over here, 9 point, and then I'm going to put some empty spots here because I'm not sure what my decimal will be. But the fraction part says 7/500ths. Okay, so if we follow what we just did, changing a fraction into a decimal and percent, then we would divide the numerator by denominator. So that would be 7 divided by 500, and that would get us a decimal of 0.014. So in our answer, we would just transfer the decimal 0.014, so we would have 0.14 as our answer. So 9 and 7/500ths keep that 9 in the ones place, and then divide the numerator by the denominator, and you get a decimal of 0.015.